It's February, so you know what that means? It's time for my January wrap up. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel for those of you who are joining me again, and a big welcome if you are here for the first time. My name is Chantel, and I'm so excited that you decided to spend some time with me today on this very, at least where I am, you guys, it is some nasty little rainy, sleety, cold weather outside. But that means it's also the perfect day to be indoors, and I thought I would just take advantage of the opportunity to share with you guys my January reads and just let you know how I like them and what I thought. So, this is the first full month of me doing my channel, and for me starting on just this intentional pleasure reading path that I have carved out for myself. And I've really loved it. I also have really enjoyed listening more to other booktubers and finding book selections to add to my reading in future months. So, for all of you out there doing that and sharing what books you like and your thoughts on it, big thank you. I'm listening. Thank you. So, without further ado, I'm just going to jump in and share with you the books that I read in January. I was able to complete all of my books on my list, which I was pretty psyched about, and I'm going to go through just to give an overview of each book. Some of them I did longer reviews, and for those that I did, I will definitely reference that so you can check them out in the comment section below if they interest you and you want to learn more about it. But getting started, I'm going to start with The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. This is a nonfiction work of James Baldwin, who was a prolific writer, activist, and an artist. And he's just one of my very favorite writers, you guys, and thought leaders and thinkers. And this is made up of two separate works. So the first one is a letter to his nephew called My Dungeon Shook. And the second one is just a longer essay. And both of them, though, talk about what it's like to be an African American male in the United States, both the history of African Americans and the legacy of slavery, the legacy of Jim Crow, and all of those things that kind of encapsulates race relations in America, but from a very personal level. And he looks at it from different perspectives, not only looking at the thing itself, but really analyzing and trying to get at why does it exist in the first place? Why does it need to exist in the first place? And what's the best way to combat it? So this book is I always get lost in the language of Baldwin, as I'm a huge just lover of how he puts words together. But there's also such significant truth and things to think about. So he offers a whole lot. And one of the ways that I like to experience Baldwin best is actually by watching him. And we're so fortunate that, excuse me, we are so fortunate that we have access to um, videos on YouTube where we can watch his debates or we can hear him as he participates in conversation. So if you have not gotten to check out Baldwin in that way, I really suggest you do so. I think it will add, just hearing his voice will add to your experience of his works. So The Fire Next Time. I also did, I went into deeper about this and I will link that video below. Okay, there's something in the air here that's irritating my throat. So I apologize if I have to cough. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely present. I think it might be a candle that's not agreeing with me too well. But onward we shall go. And the second book that I'm going to talk about is Letters to a Young Therapist by Mary Pipher. All right, so this one is one that I just picked up. I had no idea about it at all. I didn't even know if like I should pick it up because I'm not a therapist. But this is such a gem of a book. There's so much wisdom here given in very gentle ways. So it doesn't matter if you are a therapist, or if you are interested in therapy or not. I just think that there is just such life wisdom, that's really kind of, I would kind of wrap it up as the benefit of moving slowly in relationships, like how to walk with people, how to ask great questions, how to take self care, to take good care of yourself while you're sojourning with someone and doing your own work. Um, how to make sure you understand what is your responsibility and what's not your responsibility. Just such great nuggets. So this is a book that I would recommend to anyone. I really kind of used a lot of the things that I learned. I was able to kind of implement in my relationship with my girls, and just how I show up and how I talk to them. So those are ways in which I use this information in practical ways in my life. And it's also very beautifully written. It is written in letter form. Mary writing a letter to her younger mentee. And so I loved the letter format that it's in. And it's broken down into seasons. So, winter, in the winter time of your life, in the springtime of your life, here's just some nuggets of wisdom, and some lessons learned. So definitely, if you are someone who's interested in this field, I think this is a great addition to your studies, into your tool set, into your tool belt toolkit. But even if you're not, this is such a great read. So, Letters to a Young Therapist. Okay, the next one, and I'm just like pulling my books. There's no order here. They just are like how they came off my shelf. The next work that I worked through in January was this selected poems of Nikki Giovanni. And Nikki Giovanni is one of my favorite poets. She passed last year at 81 years. Fabulous. Um, and she's one that I really wish I would have had the opportunity to have had a personal conversation with her and just spent some time with her. That didn't get to happen, but I do get to sit with her words and listen to interviews and her thoughts, and I'm always touched and moved and encouraged, by her, and also usually convicted, by something that she says. I am just a fan of her poetry. There's so much energy and rhythm and rawness, in her words, and imagery. And I like that she takes an ordinary thing or a very well known issue or thing, and she gives it to us in such a way that encourages us to look at it differently and experience it differently. I think that's the real gift of poetry. I've had this book for many, many years. January was actually the month where I did not want to buy new books, but shop for my bookcase and read books that I either never read, or that I have started and stopped, or that I haven't read in a long time. And so this book fell into that category of one that I have not read in a long time. My favorite poem, happens to be a poem called Resignation, and it is in here on page 271. It is my little mark tab here. It's a love poem. And yeah, I love that poem. That's my favorite poem. So I enjoyed working through this slowly during the month of January. I would read poems to myself and to my husband before bedtime. It's set right on my nightstand, and that's when I really would just enjoy her and enjoy her poems and her words and her wisdom and her beauty that she gave. She writes about culture, she writes about love, she writes about loss, disappointment, just what the human experience goes through. And she writes from a perspective of being a Black woman, in America. So Nikki Giovanni, check her out. Okay, so the next book I actually don't have physically here with me because I let a friend read it. Actually, the next two books. So I'm going to just talk about them kind of back to back. So the first one is called State of Terror by Lewis Penny and Hillary Clinton. And you guys, I had so much fun reading this book. I had too much fun. It is a political thriller, and I love political thrillers. This was my first Lewis Penny book. I will be reading more. But this one is focused on the Secretary of State of the United States of America. And it starts off where around the world there are different terrorist activities that happen, explosions. And eventually there becomes the reality that there is a real threat, that they're not isolated, but they're definitely connected, and that there is for sure a target in the United States. And so that is a threat. But what really makes it terrifying is the fact that the threat isn't outside, stimulated from outside forces or groups, but there is the potentiality that the threat is coming from very much inside of our government and at the highest levels. I love this. This was a fast read book. It's kind of like one that I would, categorize as a great vacation book because you're just turning the pages. And I also loved it because Hillary Clinton, I think, added that authenticity of how government works and, how things happen and who's involved with what things happen and how they think about it. So I really felt like I was getting kind of an insider take on what would really happen in situations like this, and I'm all there for that. I loved it. So yes, this was a great, fun, disturbing, and terrifying, read, but also fun. So I would definitely check that out. And another book that I read that I don't have with me because I let another friend borrow it. See, I'm such a good friend. See, I just, yes. And I give away books. Like, if you come to my house, guess what you're going to leave with? You're going to leave with a book. Like, you're going to leave with a book. So the next book is Changing All Stars by Nana Kwame Ajay Brinya. And I hope I said his name right. This book, whew, you guys, where can I begin? Well, let me just say right now that I did do a review of this book. I will link that below. I'm going to not go on and on about this book right here because that's not what this is about. So if you want that, go to that video for sure. Um, this book is a dystopian novel that's set in dystopia US, and it's focused on the prison systems, which in this book are privately held prison systems. If you think Gladiator meets prison, then you have kind of what this book is focused on and it's about. Each prison system, each private prison has their own group of warriors, and they compete with one another, and they're competing to the death, and they're competing for their freedom. That's kind of just the gist of what this book is. But the beauty of this book is how he brings the story to us and the different characters that tells the story and the different writing techniques, from the very clinical writing to the lyrical writing, and also the different perspectives. We have the perspectives of the warriors, the family members, the protesters, the fans of these games. Um, it's really holistic in that way, and it does a lot to have us think about things such as our prison system and reform and violence and our attraction for violence. Um, who are the expendable people in society? And so on and on and on and on. So again, I was shocked by this book because this is not a genre that I like to read. But one of the things that I promised myself that I wanted to do this year was to really expand my bookcases. And what I mean by that is I want to make sure that I'm reading different authors, different parts of the world, and also different genres. I really want to expand myself through the books that I'm reading and not just stay with my same genres that I know like that's my safe zone. So I joined a book club that focuses on horror, fantasy, sci-fi, and this was the first book that they picked for the new year, and I'm so glad that they did. I'm so glad that I read it because I'm such a fan of it. I'm such a fan of his writing, and I look forward to reading other works that he does. So, Chain Gang All Star, check that out. Okay, another book that I read was Look Closer by David Ellis, and this was what I call a fun vacay read. I actually read this in one setting New Year's Day. I got up, I made myself a delicious little breakfast with a hot something yummy, and I sat on the couch with my dog and I read this book from cover to cover. It is very, very fast paced. It's a thriller, suspenseful type of book where you have boy runs into girl that he used to know from his past, and there are some complications there. Also, boy is married now, and it just gets complicated. It's not what you think. um, Things are not what they seem, which is why look closer. There's lots of twists and turns and unexpected things, and I really appreciated that, especially with like mystery thriller. I don't like to like figure things out right at the beginning of the book. I want to be surprised. I want to be shocked, and this did deliver with that. So this was a fun book. I definitely will pick up more of David Ellis's works when I'm on vacation or just have a day where I can sit and read a book and get lost in a book. So this is a fun one, and it definitely gave me vibes from the show You. So if you have seen the show You, you will know what I'm talking about. So look closer. Okay, and I think the last book on my list, if I'm looking at my list just to make sure, yep, this one is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. This was actually the very first book that I read, I believe, in January. I had this book. I started off on the audio, then I bought the book, and then I stopped reading it, and then I went back to it, and I'm so glad I did. So this was definitely a fun read for me. It was also a provocative read for me as well. But Lessons in Chemistry, the gist of it is you have a woman called Elizabeth Zott, and we follow her life story, her journey into becoming, well, we meet her, she is a scientist, a chemist, but we get her backstory, and then we also go with her into her future. um, and it is set in a time where women were not supposed to be chemists, and women were not taken seriously, and a woman's place was in the house and with the kids. So Elizabeth Zott is the type of woman that defies all of that, and she dares to live a life on her own terms and in her own ways. And we see that she experiences many battles. Some of them she wins, some of them she loses. She definitely, does have battle scars, but I just so appreciated the story. I appreciated her strength and seeing a woman written this way, just so bold and strong and unapologetic, and just and brazen. This was a really really great read. And also, there's a little mysterious element to it. I'm not going to go into that much because I don't want to give it away. And that also kind of made it very interesting. So I loved the wit of this book. The writing was great. It was fast paced. There was good energy here for it, and I loved Elizabeth Zott's character so much that when I went to a bar, I was talking to a bartender and I was telling him about Elizabeth Zott, and I wrote down some character traits, of her. And I was like, hey, could you make a drink that kind of captured this character? And he looked at it and he was like, let me think about it. And he came up with this drink that has no name because he came up with it. But it included like a smoky bourbon and apple bitters. It was so strong. Okay. It was strong, but it was so good. And I was like, this is Elizabeth Zott. And so we agreed to call it the Zott. And I took a picture of it so you guys could see this drink. But this was a really worthwhile book a necessary book, as unfortunately there are still things that we face as women in society, and it just speaks to it beautifully, but it also encourages us, along the way. So, lessons in chemistry. All right, I think that's all that I have for my books, for my reads this time. And in January, again, it was a really good month of reading. I have already started on my February reads, and if you want to know what I'm reading and what's on my TBR list for February, I will also link that video below for you. I hope that you enjoyed what you read in January. Please give me suggestions. Let me know what books you really liked, which ones that you recommend or think I would like to read. Please leave them in the comments below, as I'm always kind of looking to see what am I going to read next. I truly would appreciate that. And I will talk to you guys later. Yeah, until next time, you guys, you know what to do. Always stay reading. Bye.